It seems the age-old tradition of blaming a piece of hardware for a game's abysmal performance is officially over, at least according to Epic's Games CEO Tim Sweeney. In a truly breathtaking act of public service, Mr. Sweeney has informed the world that the Unreal Engine 5 is in fact flawless.
Oh really, Mr. Sweeney? As if we haven't noticed when our games dropped 1 freaking FPS.
The problem, as it turns out, is a bit more human. Specifically, it's the developers who, in their infinite wisdom and boundless ambition, have chosen to treat optimization as a post-it note on a calendar right next to call mom and buy freaking groceries. This revelation is sure to soothe the nerves of everyone who spent a small fortune on a new GPU only to watch their favorite little chug along at 20 frames per second. It's a classic case of user error, but in this case,
The user is a multi-million-dollar development studio.
the core of the issue, according to Sweeney, is the deeply ingrained philosophy of developing for high-end hardware first. This is a practice so pervasive, it's practically a rite of passage. Developers will create a game that looks like a pre-rendered cinematic on the most powerful machines available, ignoring the vast majority of the PC gaming market that isn't running a rig from the future. The data supports this, with the PC Gaming Alliance reporting that as of 2024, less than 15% of all gaming PCs are equipped with a GeForce RTX 4080 or better. This means that a massive 85% of players are left to struggle, all because a studio decided to aim for the stars and then just before launch.
Remember that most people can't actually afford the rocket.
This practice creates a mountain of problems that must be scaled in the final frantic months of a development cycle. The game's already a sprawling, unoptimized monster, and suddenly the team is tasked with taming it for lower spec machines. It's honestly an impossible task that leads to hurried compromises, buggy releases, and a collective sigh of disappointment from the player base. It's like designing and building a skyscraper and then, a week before the grand opening, realizing it also needs to function as a cozy cottage. The sheer absurdity of this approach is where the real entertainment lies. Sweeney's revolutionary solution to this madness is, in a shocking twist, for developers to optimize their games early. He argues that optimization should be a fundamental part of the development process. Yeah, no Sweeney, not a last-minute scramble to get a game running on something other than a high-end benchmark machine 5090 freaking RTX. It's a pragmatic and entirely logical approach, which is why it's so seldom followed. The industry, it seems, prefers the drama of last-minute heroism to the mundane reality of responsible planning. The facts behind this approach are solid. When optimization is considered from the beginning, developers can make smarter choices about asset complexity, polygon counts, and lighting systems. This prevents the need for a frantic, chaotic sprint at the end of the production cycle where entire systems have to be redesigned. It's a more effective way to work, reducing the risk of a disastrous launch. Data from a recent study by the Game Developers Conference shows that games with a dedicated optimization-first strategy from the start have a 67% higher launch day Metacritic score, primarily due to the positive user reviews regarding performance. The other 33% still get lambasted for something else because
Gamers will always find a reason.
this shift in philosophy would require a significant change in developer culture. Instead of focusing solely on creating the most visually impressive game possible, they would also need to consider the technical limitations of their target audience. In a grand and kind gesture, Epic Games is not just pointing out the problem, they're offering to hold the developers' hands and walk them through the solution.
Oh, good Davey, let's go, come on, good Davey.
They are strengthening the engine support by adding more automated optimization features. This is a clear sign that Epic Games understand that developers
Bless their cute little hearts.
need a little help. They're essentially building a magical fix my game button, which is a wonderful and necessary concession to the human tendency to ignore simple logical steps. These new tools are designed to streamline a process that developers often find tedious. For example, the engine could automatically detect and optimize overly complex geometry or suggest more sufficient lighting setups. It's a fantastic idea, but it also assumes that developers will use these tools correctly and not, for example, turn them off because they think the tool is
Ruining their artistic vision.
A recent survey showed that 75% of developers would rather manually optimize their entire game than use an automated tool that might slightly alter a single texture. Well, how the frick am I supposed to run this on my 980 GTX?
I mean my 5090 RTX.
Anyways, in addition to the new tools, Epic is expanding its developer education, which is a diplomatic way of saying they're going back to basics and reteaching developers how to use their own engine properly. The curriculum, I assume, will be a series of courses titled How Not to Make a Game That Runs Like a Slideshow, Why 100 million polygons on a single rock is a bad idea, and Performance 101. It's a feature, not a bug. This approach is expected to raise the average frame rate of future Unreal Engine 5 games by an impressive 22%, while raising the average developer's blood pressure by an even more impressive 47%. It's a win-win for everyone involved, except maybe for the developers themselves, maybe, just maybe. One of the most valuable assets Epic Games has in this new crusade for performance is the wealth of learnings from the development of Fortnite. The team behind that global phenomenon has had to perform true miracles to get the game to run smoothly on an insane variety of hardware, from high-end PCs to mobile phones. The lessons they have learned are not just technical notes, they are a variety grimoire of optimization secrets forged in the fires of late-night coding sessions and caffeine-fueled debugging marathons. This knowledge is now being integrated into the Unreal Engine. This is a truly fascinating development, as it means that the trials and tribulations of getting Fortnite to run on a Nintendo Switch will now benefit every developer using the engine. The optimizations such as dynamic resolution scaling and intelligent asset streaming that were developed for a single game will now be available for the entire ecosystem. This is a massive win for everyone, as it essentially means that future games will come preloaded with a little bit of that Fortnite magic that makes it possible to play on any device. Sweeney, ever the diplomat, noted that the problem cannot be solved by the engine alone and that a close collaboration between engine makers and game team is required. While this sounds like a feel-good team-building exercise, it's also a subtle way of reminding everyone that the onus is on the developers to meet Epic halfway there. The engine can provide all the tools in the world, but if the developers don't use them, nothing will change. It's a partnership, but one where one partner has been consistently carrying all the weight. The ideal collaboration would involve developers communicating their needs and challenges to Epic, and Epic responding with the necessary tools and support. Oh my goodness, it's like Epic is addressing a child. However, the reality is often much more one-sided. Developers are notorious for demanding new features and tools, only to ignore the ones they already have.
Like I said, children.
For example, a recent study I conducted from a highly reliable source
My imagination
showed that 91% of developers have never even opened the optimization tips section of the Unreal Engine documentation. The hope is that by providing better tools and more education, this collaboration will become a two-way street, that developers will finally understand the importance of performance and start using the tools at their freaking disposal. The data shows that when developers and engine makers truly work together, the development cycle can be reduced by as much as 30%, which means we get to play the game sooner. It's a win for everyone, assuming both parties are willing to engage. From the developer's point of view, the player is the ultimate antagonist in this saga.
Well, if you have optimized your freaking games from the start, we won't be the antagonists here.
They are the ones who demand the impossible. Beautiful graphics, massive worlds, and a rock-solid frame rate on their 5-year-old mid-range PC. Well, what do you expect? I'm not sitting on billions of dollars. This is a completely unreasonable request, and yet it is the one that developers must contend with every single day. The player's ignorance of the technical challenges of modern game development is both a blessing and a curse. A blessing because it fuels creativity, and a curse because it leads to a lot of angry forum posts. The developer's ambition often outpaces the player's hardware. They want to create a world that looks like a pre-rendered cinematic, and they will use every tool at their disposal to do so. The player, meanwhile, is simply trying to play a game on a machine that also has to run their web browser, their word processor, and their 20 browser tabs. In a recent survey of gamers, 88% of respondents said they would rather have a game with slightly less impressive graphics that runs flawlessly,
While 100% of developers said they would rather create a game with stunning graphics that only runs well on a few machines.
The truth is, many of these performance issues are a direct result of development hell. Games are often delayed, projects are changed midstream, and deadlines are pushed back. This creates a chaotic environment where optimization is often the first thing to be sacrificed. When a team is working around the clock to meet a new deadline, they don't have time to worry about a few extra polygons here and there. They're just trying to get the game to a shippable state. The result is a product that is not only unoptimized but also buggy and incomplete. This is a well-known secret within the industry. A recent study of a random sample of AAA games found that 93% of all performance-related issues could be tracked back to a rushed production schedule. The remaining 7% were just caused by a single line of bad code that was inexplicably overlooked for years. The truth is, the development process itself is often the cause of the problem. Now, going back to Sweeney, his vision is a tantalizing glimpse into a future where performance is a given, not a luxury. Bless your heart, Sweeney. A future where every game, regardless of its visual fidelity, runs smoothly and without a hitch on a wide range of hardware. It's a utopia for gamers and a nightmare for developers who have grown accustomed to using a low frame rate as a convenient excuse for an unoptimized product. This new era of optimize early will force developers to confront their bad habits, to face the truth that their games are only as good as the hardware they run on.
My statistics, which are absolutely undeniable, show that if this vision is fully realized, the average time spent by gamers trying to troubleshoot their games will decrease by an astonishing 78%, while the average time spent by developers explaining why their game is freaking broken will increase by 420%. It's a fair trade.
So there you have it, guys. The truth has been revealed. The Unreal Engine 5 is not the problem. The developers are. They are the ones who have squandered this magnificent tool, using it to create games that are visually stunning but functionally deficient. They are the ones who have forgotten the sacred art of optimization, believing that brute force and raw power can overcome a lack of oversight. But fear not, for Epic Games in their moment of clarity is here to save the day. They will provide the tools, the education, and the gentle nudges necessary to guide developers back onto the righteous path of performance. It is a long journey, fraught with peril and the occasional crying crisis, but with a little bit of help, a lot of late night coffee, and a healthy dose of self-awareness, perhaps one day we will live in a world where every game runs at a smooth 60 frames per second on a decent modern PC. Or we could all just buy a new GPU. It's probably easier. According to my entirely made up but emotionally accurate statistics, 100% of all gamers would rather spend $1,000 on a new graphics card than wait for a developer to release a patch. It's the circle of life, the beautiful, cynical reality of the gaming world. But what do you guys think? Are developers truly the sole culprits, or is Epic's engine a little more complicit than they're letting on? Should studios be forced to optimize for low-end machines first, or is that a ridiculous constraint on artistic freedom? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching the video, guys. If you enjoyed it, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more future content. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.